Hey everybody, welcome to the brand new Circle Hook Productions. If you're new here, my name is Clint, and this channel is all about catching trophy catfish from the kayak. Talking about kayaks, I have my Nucanoe Unlimited parked outside on the patio, and we're going to dive into all the cool modifications and upgrades that I've made to it. I've had the kayak now for more than 2 years, and it puts me in a position to really give you a good rundown of not only everything I've done to the kayak, but also of how the kayak performs overall. I've been fishing through the heat of the day, in the Texas sun, through the darkness of night with all the bugs that come with that, and been able to really get a good feel for how this kayak performs. So let's not waste any more time. Meet me out on the patio and let's check it out. Okay, starting at the front of the kayak, we have the Nucanoe mount that I bought from Nucanoe 2 years ago, and you can see this one comes with a handle. You get other brands and other models where you do have a handle in the front, and maybe that makes it a little bit easier just to grip and haul your kayak around. So that's the mount I have for my motor. On top of the mount, it's the Motor Guide quick release puck. So the motor basically sits on top of that, and then you have this square steel pin that slots in these holes here when the motor's on top there and basically locks it in place. Then I have this strap over here, which is attached to the handle. So this strap I use to tie the kayak down like this to the tongue of the trailer over there. So when the kayak's on top of the trailer and it's got some weight at the back of it, it can bounce up and down. And by tying it down like this with this nice sturdy strap, it just keeps it nice and secure and in place, and I don't have to worry about it bouncing and maybe losing some gear that flies out or having the kayak slide backwards while traveling on the highway. So that's been a simple solution right there, and it's done its job pretty well. If we move a little bit back, we have our hole through wiring plate. These plates are the ones that come with the kayak. So there's one here and there's one on either side of the seat, which we'll get to shortly. But all of them tend to warp in the heat and over time. And by warping, it actually creates a gap between the body of the kayak and the plate itself and through the gasket. So because it does that, and if you have water coming over the hull here, the water can actually seep in and get into the hull, and after each trip you need to actually take that water out. And I've needed to do that a couple of times, and I was wondering like where the water was coming from, and eventually realized that it was coming through here. So I took some marine goop and did a bit of a sloppy job and sealed this up, sealed the Yak Attack through hull kit as well, and the receptacle for my trolling motor plug, which is down there. We'll get to the plug as well once we get to the battery at the back, and I'll show you how that works. Yeah, so basically the wire for the transducer is coming through the hull from where the transducer is. The wiring's basically coming through that other through hull plate, in through the hull of the kayak, out here, under the gear pod, up the front of the gear pod, and then into my fish finder unit over there. Talking about the gear pod, so everything here has been designed to be self-contained. That's the way I've sort of made it. And what that means is that I can remove the entire pod simply by disconnecting one cable from the fish finder, and then remove the entire thing, including the fish finder, the lights and everything, with the battery inside there, and store it away or keep it safe. For example, if I'm traveling and I have to park the kayak in a parking lot that might not be too safe or secure, I can take this whole thing off with everything inside and on it and keep it in my hotel room or whatever the case may be. So inside the pod, I have my 55 amp hour amped outdoors battery that's powering everything in the pod. That includes the lights and the fish finder and any sort of auxiliary power. So I have this 12 volt socket over here where I can plug things into. I have my switch that sends power to the navigation lights on either side. And these are pretty cool lights. So these are strip lights I got from Amazon. I can't remember the brand, but I'll find it and stick it in the description. But they've been really great. And over the 2 years that I've had them, they've not even come off even a little bit in terms of this adhesive here. And then I've just wired them through, made a small little hole, wired the wire through there, exactly to the size of the wire, so it fits very snugly, it's watertight. And I have a bit of a junction box here where I have some terminal strips. So all the wiring that's coming into this pod sort of goes via the junction box, gets power from the battery, and everything is nicely distributed that way. You can also see I've got my paddle, and I've got a whole bunch of other accessories and cables and a bunch of scrap as well, just in case I need it out in the water. On the other side of the pod, I have a receptacle that fits that same plug that's on the trolley motor here, this one. It's a Nucanoe plug. And this one is primarily used only to charge the battery in the pod. So my charger actually has the same plug that I've put on there, on the trolley motor. And all I have to do is plug that plug into the pod and it charges my battery up. I never have to take the battery out. I don't have to touch anything else with the pod, maybe besides undoing the power or taking the power off the fish finder unit, just so that if something does go wrong, it doesn't send charger power straight through to the unit itself. So I prefer, just to be safe, to disconnect that. Then I've also got a Telesin camera pole here. This is where I'll put my DJI Osmo Action 4. If we move a little bit further back, you're going to see that my fish finder is a Lowrance HDS Live 12. So it's a 12-inch display. Probably totally overkill for a kayak, but I do have a couple of projects that I'm busy with, and I've got a couple of prototypes going on using this in a different way. So there'll be some videos shortly on how I do that. Then there's no shortage of gear track on the Nucanoe Unlimited. So as you can see, there's one in the center here. We have one over there. We've got one here. And we've got more on the outside. And one of the issues with these tracks is that any sort of track in this fashion, yes, it's stable and secure for just regular type accessories that you might want to put in here. Maybe like a fish finder, for example, or a phone holder, or rod holders that are not taking load. But kayak catfishing requires something a lot more sturdy. I like to use these Smackdown catfishing rod holders. And as you can see, they've got the tube part, so you can do a straight up vertical rod holder, or you can mount them in different directions. For example, in the front, I like to run my rods sort of out the side horizontally like that. You can also do them straight through the rod holder that way, this way as well. So I think they have 5 different positions that you can do. And I need to give credit to Dan from Goober Time Outdoors, because he came up with using these mounting brackets that are actually for the Boondocks lander at the back there, which we'll also get to. But basically, the Boondocks bracket mounts onto both the top and the bottom gear track. So by doing that, you're actually getting 4 different anchor points, and this stainless steel or steel piece of plate here is really strong and robust. And we've basically gone and bolted the rod holder straight into this plate. There's no fish in any lake here that's going to break that off or even make it budge. So that's been a really great design, and a really clean design as well. Over here, I'm just showing you my light. So this is typically the way I would use my light on the kayak. I would have it in my rod holder there. It still allows me to have my rod going out horizontally from the side. And then I plug my light. Here's the cable. I plug my light into the 12-volt socket of the pod over there. Then, if we move back a little bit more, we have 2 cup holders. So this one I would normally have maybe my coffee or another drink. And then this one here, as you can see, has some regular sinkers and some drifting sinkers in there. So this is mostly used for storage, but I can also put a drink on top of that. They're pretty big and pretty deep as well, so it works well for using it on both. And then over here, I've gone and put in the retraction cable or cord for my transducer. So if I drop this down, you're going to notice that underneath the kayak, the transducer is able to drop down just a little bit, and you get the side scan with that. And then we can pull it up again like this and just lock it in place with the cleat. My measuring board just goes under the seat there. Talking about the seat, it's one of the main reasons why I moved from the Hobie PA14 to this kayak, and that is because it is a 360 swivel seat. So I've done a lot of fishing where I sit out to the side like that or this way, and it turns the kayak into a completely different fishing platform. So normally you would have your seat facing forward. Those are your front rods, those are your back rods. If you swing that way, now those are your front rods and on that side, and these are your back rods at the back of the seat. And you can sort of obviously do that any way you want. If it's facing the back, able to put the legs up on the cooler, relax, and just get a bit of a different perspective. Or if the wind's blowing, let's say from the front and you're spot locked, it would position you so that you're facing into the wind. And if it was a cold, horrible wind, you don't want to be facing the front the whole day and getting blasted by that. You could simply just swing around, have your back to the wind, and stay warm and not be bothered by it. So that's also a really great benefit of having the swivel seat. Now behind the seat, I've got a Yak Gear waterproof bag. So this is normally where I would put my car keys. I've got my fishing license and other equipment which I don't or wouldn't want to get wet, and I'm not using it that often. So even things like my 5G modem for when I'm live streaming will go in here, and it will stay nice and dry, and it just doesn't get in the way, and I can't interfere with it while it's there. Below that, I've got this cooler. I use it mostly for my food and drinks, so my bottles of water and other beverages and whatever food I might have. Just zips open like this, and it's a nice big size cooler inside there. You can put your ice bricks and whatever you want to snack on. I mean, you could put bait in there as well if you really wanted to. So it's out of the way. It's obviously behind the seat storage, so it allows you to sort of have that flat profile, and it's not in the way of your legs or anything. So when you swing around, it's obviously swinging with the chair. It's almost like it's not even there. Here you can see the other hole through plate. This is where the transducer cable is going through. And you can sort of see here how it's bowed or warped. Typically, if I wash the kayak or if it rains or whatever, that's when it's going to get in this one. Water coming over the front is more from actually traveling in the water with the kayak, going over waves or through waves. The water does come over the front, and that's where you're going to get water that comes through the hole. Now below the chair over here, this is something a little bit different that I've done. It was a project I had on my Hobie PA14. This is a extension cable for the kill switch on my Honda 2.3 that I have at the back. So as you can see, just got the Honda mounted there just to show you it in action. Normally I would have a tiller handle extension, which I don't have with me here. It's in storage, and the tiller handle would sort of reach to my chair here, and I'll be able to control the motor from the seat. But I just wanted to show you the fact that I have a kill switch available to me right at the chair, and I can take this part off, clip that onto me, and I've got a proper kill switch. Over here I keep my brush gripper, so if I'm sort of anchoring up next to a dock or something, I'll take this off or unravel this and then clip it to whatever I want to clip to, and it keeps my kayak nicely secured against that. Here's my lip grippers for when I'm hooking sort of medium-sized fish. Coming a little bit further back here, we have our Boondocks landing gear. So the real purpose of the landing gear was actually to be able to mount these rear rod holders. So it's not designed for this, but it's the perfect platform to mount these smackdown catfishing rod holders using these fish bites little mounts over here. It's basically a aluminum block that just runs through the gear track, and you're able to bolt it down and secure everything in place. And again, because this is a load-bearing structure, because of the landing gear, this thing here is definitely not going anywhere, especially not with any fish that we'll encounter. After that, I've got my cooler, which I actually use for equipment. So if we open this up, what you're going to find is tackle boxes, bait, a smaller cast net. Over there I've got my 8-foot net. This is a small 5-foot net. It's a little bit easier to throw in the kayak. And we've got some cloths and tackle and several things here. So mostly just a storage spot. You can see here, this is again the extension cable for the kill switch. So it's running with this expandable sort of coiled cable. So when I turn the motor, it's able to stretch out and not get damaged. Then I have my battery. So I've wired everything for the battery into a custom box that I've made, which has a power port there for a 12-volt socket. And then it's also got a USB Type-C power delivery and a regular USB 3 port. I've strapped it down at the back here as well. And then over here is where that plug is. So I'll just twist that, pull it out. And to insert the power cable into that receptacle, it's simply a matter of lining it up, pushing it in, and it locks it in place really nicely. Got my Yak Attack flag over here. It's got the little light on there. This is sort of my secret prototype project that I've been working on. Definitely going to have a video of that soon, so stay tuned for that one. And other than that, I think that is the complete walkthrough of my Nucanoe Unlimited 2021 version, all set up for the kayak catfishing season of 2024. Like I said, I've had this kayak for 2 years, and it's been a phenomenal piece of equipment, and it's served me very, very well. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next one.